So I want to thank everybody for watching my video today on this glorious day of July 31st, 2020. And we only got several months until it's election time. Well, everybody says how, in every 4 years, how this is the most important election of our lifetime. Well, this time it sort of seems like it. When our civil rights, our national liberties, our republic, our constitution, our Bill of Rights are actually subject to attack once more by the Democrat Party and the Democrats and their surrogates and parroting fools, as I would say. First, I want to go into the issues of, this is going to be part 2 of my questioning of both Joe Biden's disastrous economic policies versus Trump's prosperous economic policies, and I will go into comparison one-on-one in my next show. But this show, I just want to encompass where Biden's past history with his present policies and how he incorporated the AOC, Bernie Sanders socialist policies, which he ascribed to on the mandate, which he actually signed, and how that incorporates his policies that he entails if, God forbid, he were to become president of the United States. Now, we've known his past for 40 years. We've seen how he's his record, as far as his record during the past 40 years as a senator and in public life. And we've also seen the Obama-Biden economic policies, not just in theory but in practice, and even compare those to Trump's economic policies, both in theory and practice, and what they came out to be. So logically, we, as apples and apples, we can actually look and ascertain what is the difference and why one would actually vote for one over the other. So, but first, that's going to be the apple and apple comparison is going to be my next show. This show, I'm going to go back into a little bit more of Biden's actual policies that he had with Obama, and it's what he wants to mandate, basically the Obama-Biden 2.0, but he has now incorporated the AOC, Bernie Sanders Green Deal, as he's authorized when he signed off onto their platform. Now, what's so ironic, I think sort of funny, is how Biden is such a plagiarizer. We know he plagiarizes speeches and ideas, but now he's called Build Back America. Isn't it like sort of like, make America great again? First of all, when has Biden really ever built America back? Okay? I can't think of a damn thing he's ever done in his entire life that he's actually built America great or built back America. So it's sort of like a total joke, we know after his years as vice president of Obama, because it's basically the Obama-Biden economy, which incorporated high taxes and high regulations. What did they result? I mean, we know what they resulted with from the experience of those 8 years, right? Well, there was 95 million of Americans not participating in the labor force. We know it was the lowest recovery since the 1940s. We know that it was the lowest home ownership in 51 years. We also know that there was actually 11 million more Americans on food stamps. We know that there are 43 million Americans in poverty. And we also know that he added more national debt than any other presidential administration combined at $20 trillion in debt. And that's the Obama-Biden economic platitude we had experienced for 8 years. And people saw that. I mean, the Biden-Obama plan had cost regulations that were unsurmountable to small business, large business, and medium-sized business, to the point of almost $1 trillion, with estimations of approximately about $880 billion. So just think about it. Almost $1 trillion cost or out there for businesses to comply to the mass amount of regulations alone. Not talking about taxes, just the regulations alone. Now think about it. If you have a business and you're getting regulated like hell, like they did in the past, are you going to open up your business in America, or are you going to just sort of outsource your business overseas? Are you going to be so inclined to invest in America and your companies? It really takes away an incentive to even have a company, right? I mean, the whole point of having a business is being an entrepreneur to achieve what you have an idea of and make it great and bigger and hopefully better your families or your shareholders if you're big enough, or whatever. It's the American dream from ground up. And then the majority of businesses, were decimated by this. And I'm talking about this. It decimated businesses from African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, woman. It didn't matter. All Americans suffered under the Obama-Biden economy. And I mean, like I said, the cost of regulations alone were over $1 trillion, and who could keep up with that? During those 8 years, it was actually zero manufacturing came here. So when Biden says, "I'm going to bring manufacturing," it's a joke. It's a total joke. You have to be, I hate to say it, a real moron to really believe in him that he could bring back manufacturing, when his own predecessor Obama had said, quote unquote, it's the new normal. They're never going to bring manufacturing again into the United States. In fact, they laughed in 2016. I remember Obama laughing at Trump about him bringing in manufacturing jobs, and voila, didn't Trump bring in manufacturing, proving Obama and Biden total fools and all their surrogates, Clintons and all the Democrats. He proved it. And there's a big reason for why and I'll get in a little bit of it, why he's able to do what he's able to do, and how Biden still doesn't get it. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans who support still Democrats or still support Biden don't get it. And hopefully they wake up and see the real deal. What happened during those 8 years was there was a great amount of decades of outsourcing. Now, this started well back since the days of Clinton, but it rolls back in the days of Bush, but then it even increased vastly during the time of Obama's administration, with Biden at the mantle as well. So you cannot say that he has any ability to expand any businesses or manufacturing in the United States, when it was the contrary. Biden did get $1 billion, or rather his son, $1 billion, wink wink, not for Hutner's sweet little smile, wink wink. He did get it for a reason, and that maybe perhaps that reason was China had its own incentives, and they had somebody in their pocket. It's sort of funny how the Democrats have accused of Trump being in Putin's pocket, but the irony is definitely Biden is in China's pocket, and that'll get into the next show I'll talk about. But you have to think this back in your mind, where their incentives and why his total Build Back America is a total piece of crap. It falls on its face. I mean, you cannot believe this guy. Who could believe him? I mean, I'd believe Manson before I'd ever believe him. And one of the things you can speak about is in the past 8 years during the Biden, that tells you a lot about the Biden-Obama economy and their lies, the deceitfulness, is the failure of Obamacare, which he ironically called it the Affordable Health Care Act. And I remember him telling everybody that, it's gonna, you won't be able to keep your insurance, you won't have to change your doctors, and of course it's going to reduce your cost, right? That's why it was called Affordable Health Care Act, which in fact many people lost their health insurance and had to go towards some health care insurance, which was substandard insurance, compared to what they had previously. And the ones that did, it was forced to take on insurance with drastically high premiums, high deductibles, and high co-pays. Now, I'm going to say it did help people who were moderately poor, but it killed or very much hurt the middle class. The average person you can talk to about their health care insurance, is dramatically high. And going into what Biden's talking about, has relinquished and jumped on the bandwagon when he said he wouldn't, but of course he is a big liar. Now he signed on to the Medicare for All. So, what's Medicare All for is basically universal health insurance, and get ready to stand in lines and have further diminished health care. Of course, the elite people, the people who have vast amounts of money who are extremely wealthy, they won't have to worry about that Medicare because they'll have the money to seek private insurance. This is actually what happens in the UK. People who think, they have great insurance, they have really crappy insurance. I was in the UK, healthcare, and then it's moderately, I wouldn't trust it. And we've heard stories where they wouldn't even do certain surgeries and you had to wait in line, and that's true. And if you have money, then you go to a private doctor. And I can tell you from my personal account, from knowing people who are like professional sports athletes in the UK, they do not go to a hospital that's funded by the government. They go privately. So, it's the haves will certainly have their special health care, and the have-nots, which would be under their Medicare for All, would have crap health care. And that's basically, it becomes like a feudalism of health care. And I'm not going to get into that much, but I was just saying it's so ridiculous to say that your costs would be reduced and the vast majority of your monies would substantially go up just in your taxes just to afford that. So that's talking about healthcare. I don't want to go too much on that. Now, going into just from my personal experience also, but I'm also going to talk about the so-called stimulus money from Obama and Biden, because Biden often says he's going to put money back into helping, different places and communities and bullshit like that and BS, and he really doesn't. He's following the same format that Obama did, and one of us, which I don't know if you're aware of, is that the so-called stimulus money that from the Obama-Biden administration was they simply took from one set of monies to offset and put it in another place, and more or less this happened actually amongst the Native American communities who suffered the most under the Obama-Biden administration, not in terms of increased poverty and unemployment and business being destroyed, but again, Obama and Biden diverted actual monies from the Native American communities for their BS stimulus. I know this personally because I was there. I was in both in the Apache reservations in southern Colorado, as well as on Hopi land from 2009 through 2011. And I was witnessed how Obama and Biden had cut off the transportation funds and other government allocations that were supposed to be federally mandated to them. And I often question the legality of it, but they don't really care about the Native Americans. Anyway, what happened was they caused a massive layoff of federal employees of Native Americans who would work on both maintaining roads and different area of infrastructures on their community structures, like the roads, like I said, and buildings and things like that. And what happened was, because of that massive layoff, a lot of Native Americans were relinquished to sell off their sacred art just to even eat. And I was like surprised. I'd see blank walls and you can see images and things they had, artifacts that were on their wall that they removed, and it's been in their families for generations. And it was really, really sad. The other thing they had done was because of this, there was actually my experience there was a major storm that actually closed roads along the Hopi because they didn't actually have the federal money to employ the maintenance, like I said, for these crucial roads. So they didn't have the wood to be shipped into up into their mesas where they lived in northern Arizona to heat their homes because they were obstructed from the snow and the lack of maintenance in their roads. So, but thankfully there were volunteers who actually came out and saved them, and also are involved with all that and help opening the roads and getting wood to them so they'd heat their homes. But unfortunately, all because of this was all due to the Obama Biden administration, and this is what they did to, I believe, to the American Native American communities and how they suffered. In fact, there was sort of a joke I remember on the reservations. They were shocked that they were treated better during the Bush Jr. administration than the Obama administration. So that little tells you how they suffered economically, and this transcends to a lot of things about how, the background, how Biden really feels for the average American. He doesn't really care about the average American. He never has, never will. And that's just the face of it. I mean, Biden cares about Biden. Biden cares about his family. Biden cares about taking care of all his little surrogates and people around him and all that stuff. And this is true within the Obama administration. It's pretty much a character of it, which I'm going to get into my next show about corruption. But when we hear often these the Biden Green Build America and it works and all that stuff, he talks about putting monies into green companies and investing in them, and we're going to build away and do all this stuff. Well, there was a famous company, and you can look it up. It's called Solyndra, Solynra, and in 2009, the Obama Biden administration gave over $535 million to Solyndra, and that's $500 million, literally. And it was supposed to create 4,000 jobs. That's what they were promoting. You remember, they're going to get all these companies, and there was 4,000 jobs, right? Not a single job was really produced. Not one. Instead of creating the 4,000 new jobs, the company actually went bankrupt. But then it was understood and found out later, it was revealed what the company's shareholders and executives had actually made substantial donations to Obama's campaign, and that's what the turnaround was. So it was give and take. So suddenly, when there's a large sum of money on lobbying, and that the Solyndra's executives, had obviously several meetings with the Bidens and Obama officials, and then they would sort of pay for play. They kick back here, kick back there, and this has been the ongoing situation with the Obama Biden administration. I mean, it was the most corrupt administration in history, and this is just a tip. I mean, I can go on about other ones, which I will go later. But this is the MO of Biden. And if you honestly think that he's going to build back America, you got a screw loose. He don't really care, and he never will. I mean, the green program's a facade. It's basically snake oil. He's not going to do what he's going to say. It's basically to rip off America. They're going to tax the hell out of America. They're put back the regulations. That's what he even says. He'll roll back all the regulations and revert back to the taxes that Trump had in place before. And then on top of it, he's going to increase taxes on corporations and anybody making 400,000 more, which means small businesses are also going to have to pay more taxes because they end up grossing about that much anyway. So they're going to end up paying more. So that means the people hurt the most are going to be the Hispanic, the Black Americans, the white the small entrepreneurs, the Asian Americans. It doesn't matter. I don't like getting this identity, but you can see what goes on. They're the ones who get hurt the most. I mean, big corporation, they'll outsource, they'll finagle stuff, they'll build over in China and bring it back here. But the mom and pop shops, they're gone. They'll be killed. I mean, if you want to think about it, look at the banks. What happened with the banks? I'll give you an example. Remember how many banks there were up in 2009? Now, how many big banks are left? I mean, you go to the bank, there's, Chase, there's B of A and Wells Fargo, basically, and maybe Citicorp. I mean, there aren't too many banks left. I mean, there used to be a whole lot of banks. Now they're all swallowed up. Why? Because that's how basically they worked. And by the way, though, the bankers, they got bailed out themselves. And there's a famous thing that came out through AIG, which I can get in which I'll get into next week. Again, another corruption thing that the Bidens and Obamas were involved with. So, and why they got monies and they got taken care of, out of our money. And AIG had owned a lot of paper, and nothing was done about it. So, like I said, Solandra wasn't unique. There are plenty of Solandras during the course of the Obama-Biden economy. And like I said, I can go into the issues, but there was definitely prevalent the disgusting corruption, issues of corruption that happened between the Obama administration, specifically Biden himself, was it's uncanny. I mean, it was right in their face, and surprisingly, media such as CNN and MSNBC, and even I would say Fox, didn't cover enough. I mean, maybe Fox to some degree, but I mean, CNN, who was supposed to be considered a mainstream media middle, but it's obviously leftist, didn't say anything. I mean, they dropped the ball. They didn't do anything, and there was actually surprisingly no investigations by any of the Congress, which also is another issue. But there is definitely prevalent corruption, which I'm going to get into next week. So, I mean, so when someone says Obama and Biden administration, one can also say Uranium One, China being Hunter Biden, play for and the Clinton Foundation, selling arms to the Mexican cartel, kickbacks from the billions of cash dropped off to Iran, and so on and so on. And did I say China? I mean, Biden in the same sentence without saying kickbacks, corruption in the same paragraph? I mean, really. But I'll get into that in part 3, like I said, because of, it's simply disgusting. There's no parallel. So, when you talk about Biden's economy, I mean, just look at it. It doesn't have any issues of having any prosperity within Build Back America. Only thing Build Back is Build Back Biden's his bank account, his brother's bank account, his son's bank account, and all his little entourage, or probably former Obama officials, would quickly come back and have their hands out and make their cuts, make their money. I mean, think about it. Biden, by the way, has been in 40 years in public office, and he's worth over $100 million. How the hell did he ever make $100 million? I mean, seriously. I mean, $100 million? I mean, come on. But then look at Obama. Look at all of them. Anyway. So basically, under the Biden economic plan, during their term period, I mean, poverty actually increased by 31%. And Biden economics would basically be Biden's economic policy would be Obama Biden 2.0 economics. But what's worse is he actually incorporates the socialist Venezuelan style Bernie Sanders and AOC economic plan. Now, I'm not trying to do the boogie woogie on you or anything, but Biden did sign on to this socialist program that would effectively destroy our economy, your business, your jobs, and your opportunities, and your prosperity. I mean, AOC's socialist plan would tax approximately 80% of Americans with higher taxes. That's actually a fact by most standards. The socialist plan would actually suffocate any business with extremely high taxes and high regulations, and incorporate draconian mandates that we're actually witnessing in many states, such as California and other Democrat-run states and cities, I mean, look at all the shutdowns. I mean, this is basically what he'll tell you. Your company is producing too much carbon dioxide, we're shutting you down. I mean, he's going to go to that threshold. Don't kid yourself. He's also wants to implement a massive crush on, or it would be devastating. He wants to shut down natural gas and then petroleum industries, including shale. And there's estimate of about 20 to 40 million jobs lost due to this myopic draconian shutdowns of natural gas and petroleum industries. These would actually directly hit such states as Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, the Dakotas, and many others. This is based on some credible economics. And then Biden would also entertain, he even said he would return and re-sign the Paris Climate Accord that actually benefit China because they would not fall under the same restrictions of the United States. That would be the restrictions for increasing carbon dioxide increase. Only United States manufacturing and industries would be required. And although I don't exactly agree and consider the climate change caused by humans is actually a hoax, which I'll get into another day, this deal would literally destroy our economy as we know it today, especially since you would be putting out about 40 million people out of work. There's no way they could properly train them in such a short time and put them in new jobs, let alone corporations who are being taxed to start these new corporations, because there's no incentive if you're being taxed so much. So why would you open a company to employ people that you're going to get taxed so much and have so many regulations in the first place? It doesn't make it, they think people are stupid, and I believe Americans are not stupid. And there's another thing that's sort of funny. It's not so funny, but the Biden AOC Sanders Green Deal would actually be detrimental to our environment. And the reason what I'm talking about, they're talking about increasing the production of windmills. Windmills actually are disgusting things to put out there because they actually kill birds. This is the Concords, eagle, a lot of big raptor birds and many other birds as well. That's why they stopped using them in Nevada, because it was effectively causing seriousness to the California condor, which surprisingly California still has those windmills, and I think they're disgusting because they actually kill birds. So go figure that out. Oh yeah, and by the way, the windmills that they're talking about, those would not be built in America. In fact, there's nothing that says in the Biden AOC Sanders Green Deal that, or his mandate, saying that these windmills would be actually manufactured in the United States. It'd be more likely that they would be manufactured in China or elsewhere. I bet on China. I mean, $1 billion, wink wink. Further, his economic mandate also stipulates that there'd be nothing about where these panels would be, like I said, manufactured. It also will be disastrous because it would effectively cost Americans about 60% more for their energy needs. California, for example, which has a very you can look this up. California actually pays more because it's not taxes, but it's regulations. Pays more than 60% than the other states around the country because of these high mandated green restrictions. So think about that. So most the Americans would be paying for 60% more for their energy requirements. Now, who do you think would suffer the most paying that 60% more? Oh yeah, poor people, middle class people, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and others who may be living in either middle class or lower inner cities. All their costs would be up, and who'd be paying them for that? And so what I'm saying is, you can literally understand the Biden economy just by what he accomplished during the Obama years of 8 years. You can literally look at what the plan for the Green Deal, which, by the way, I remember was proposed, put up on a vote, and even the senators, the Democrat senators, were so embarrassed they refused to vote on it, even though they supported it verbally, because they know that it was to be disastrous. But Biden signed on to it, so this is what he would be pushing, because this is where the Democrat Party is. They're not the moderate. There's no such thing as moderate Democrat now. There's nothing called centralist. If you're a centralist Democrat, you're in no man's land for right now. There's no moderate. There's no middle. There's not even. It's just extreme left. They basically have abdicated a socialist policies, and that's pretty much it. And you're going to see a lot. And there's just massive corruption within it, which just you can just see. Ilhan Omar just got just busted, showing how she takes campaign funds and pays off her husband through as a consultant. I think $400,000 or $500,000, and this is common amongst the Democrats. Bernie Sanders does the same thing with his wife. She acts as the consultant for his campaign, and that's how they redivert the funds for that. And she also, if you want to make any endorsement from Bernie Sanders, it's always well known that his wife would then be required to be the consultant for that campaign, and so that campaign will have to give money to her as a consultant, and therefore that's how they get their kickback. This is basically how the Democrats' economy works. They don't know how to manufacture anything. They don't know how to run an industry. That's the big difference. And right now we're witnessing literally the Biden economy. If you live in Michigan, or you live in New York, or California, Washington, Oregon, or any other Democrat-run state, with its draconian economic shutdowns, with the government imposing their will on your business and jobs. I mean, how many businesses are now going bankrupt because of this? How many jobs are nowhere in sight? That's your Biden economy. I mean, you think this is it, but this is going to be really, really bad if he were, God forbid, president. I mean, it would be terrible. Simply put, this is what we're up against. This is what we see, and they pretty much laid it out. And they think people are stupid who can just fall for this. And I honestly think that Americans are a lot smarter than that. I think Americans see through the BS that the Democrats have put out. I honestly think Americans are smarter to see that the Biden plan is just a repeat of those 8 years that were disastrous. And even worse, they're incorporating these socialist extremes that would literally rip apart our country. What next? No cows because they fart? I mean, no planes because they have whatever? I mean, they're going to literally fall under the AOC mandates and Green Deal. That's what it's heading to, with a socialist mandate. And that's not really going to be real pure socialism. It's like what I said. Ends up feudalism, because believe me, the people like the Bidens and the Obamas and the AOCs and all those people, because she's starting to gain money, the Pelosi's, I mean, I got a history of all of them, and how they made their money. It's so corrupt. They didn't make their money with a factory. They did not build they didn't have a business. They never had employees. Look at it. Have they ever had a real business that had employees that manufactured or build homes or build buildings or roads or infrastructure or anything like that, or had or anything with real commerce? There's not one. And we've had, for the first time in history, a president who is a businessman. You may not like what he says or how he says it, but he's a businessman, and he knows, and he's been doing it, is increase the capital gains and the vast amounts of income. Because when you have a business, you look on expanding your income and lowering your cost. That's basic what he did. He just expanded our business in the United States. He took out, cut all the crap out. That's what you do. Cut all the fat, cut out the overhead, right? Make it run more in sync. And then it gets bigger. And the cakes get bigger. So you think about it. Biden is going to be increasing taxes, let's say, of 20%. I'm just throwing a number out. Let's say you're paying 20% instead of 10%. And you think of that 20% of 100 is only what? Let's say $100,000. That's $20,000, right? Now, if you reduce it 10%, and that meant business came in with, let's say, $500,000, that's like $50,000 of actual tax revenue come in. Isn't that even more than 20%, 20,000? Do you see? You get my drift? That's how it works. Trump doesn't look on percentage points of tax revenue. He looks at the bottom line of tax revenue. That's how a businessman works. A lawyer can never think that. I hate to say about lawyers, but they're one of the worst in business. And that's what Biden was. And that's what they all were. And that's why it runs like that. And we're the first time in history having a businessman running a business. Because our country is a business. And we see people benefiting from it. And if Biden was our president, it would be an economic disaster that would make the Great Depression look like a paradise. So I say, please, wake up. Take that red pill of truth. Think for yourselves. And I want to thank you all. God bless you all. And have a great day.